Listeners, we're back with another AI update with the industry leader and, quite honestly, one of the true experts on AI in the world when it comes to all that's going on in the development. So welcome back, Pavan. Good to have you here, friend.
Always a good time. So much to talk about today. I don't, 20 minutes is not going to be enough, but we're going to
No,
get
we
through
never
it
have
all.
enough, but we tried to get it in. You recently sent me an MIT Sloan management review that was really an interesting article. First of all, tell us a little bit about the article. Many of you are commenting about the information we're sharing is very valuable, and we're glad to hear that. So you're going to stay tuned. You're going to hear all that we got to talk about. Tell us about this MIT Sloan article, Pavan.
Yeah, actually, it's been a busy month for MIT. Within the first 2 weeks of January, MIT issued two major, really game-changing studies and reports. It's got the whole industry looking at rethinking what they're doing. So this particular one that we're talking about is the MIT Sloan School of Management, basically the outlook for AI, agentic AI for the next 5 years. And they're calling the bubble. They're saying the bubble is deflating. The deflation of the bubble is about to begin.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we're talking about agentic AI, not AI, but agentic AI is the
Just
bubble.
basically, I would summarize it as AI in its current incarnation.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. All right.
Like all the money that's flooding into OpenAI, and Nvidia, right? So
And
they're calling that bubble as the beginning that either the deflation has started or will start soon.
yeah, in fact, there's a video where folks were going to put a YouTube video in the links, and the article or the video is titled "How a Black Swan Bursts the AI Bubble," and it's a summary of the MIT Sloan report that's going on. So, why is it that there's this bubble that's bursting? There's this black swan event that's happening. Why is that? And give us a little background on that.
Well, there's no black swan event. I think the
Well,
commentator
that's what
was
that
talking
video
about.
said, and that's what they titled that. It's probably some clickbait to get you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I think what he meant, what that commentator, this is not the MIT paper itself,
Yeah.
but the commentator was saying that a black swan event would cause a sudden explosion of that bubble, which would be really bad because there's trillions of dollars have gone into building AI infrastructure, data centers essentially. And if there's a sudden pop, we can see, a systemic challenge to the economy. I mean, it could cause cascading bank failures and so forth. But this paper is really talking about, and I think the reason MIT put the paper out is to get ahead of that and start resetting expectations so that there could be a slow, gradual deflation, right sizing. I wouldn't even call it deflation, right sizing of the bubble, right? It's like with anything in the markets, right? The technicals are indicating we're at the top, and we want it to that essentially the growth has overshot, right?
Okay.
And the prices have overshot, and we want it to come down slowly, not all of a sudden, right? And everything that you trade in life will always have these periods of overshooting and correction and undershooting after they fall and so forth. And this is standard in engineering and control systems, is the standard impulse response. This isn't anything to say about some flaw in human behavior or human psychology or greed or Wall Street greed. No, every system in nature, right, has this characteristic of an overshoot followed by a fall, by an undershoot, and so forth, and then an ultimate stabilization, right? And so this can be modeled off of whether it's whether it's a spring, or whether it's a trading system or an asset class, NASDAQ, whatever. Everything follows the same principle. So so what the paper is saying is let's get ahead of this. And let's make sure we have a smooth ramp down and have a price correction to where the real price should be, right? And I believe that's why MIT issued this paper, and I think that's smart. They're getting ahead of it. Okay, and they talked about something which I found, which was the first time I'd heard about it. Maybe I think you're a lot more wise. You're wiser than I am, and more worldly than I am. So I'm sure you've heard about this concept before I did. And they talk about something called Amara's law.
Yes, I was going to ask you about Amara's law because that was brought out. Which is an overstatement, technology in the short term and understatement in the long term. In other words, and what this also article says, the strategic advice is don't ignore agentic AI, but don't fully commit yet. Is that what is that the principle in Amara's law?
Well, Amara's law, yes, sort of. Agentic AI is an application of it. Basically, what they're saying is that, okay, Amara's law says that technology is always initially overstated,
right?
Overestimated. The value of the tech is always, in the beginning, overestimated, followed by too drastic an underestimation.
Right.
Right. And ultimately, the truth is somewhere in between.
Yeah. And Amara's law really showed up in the .com era. And it's a real good parallel because we were .comming everything. Everything was .com. And it feels a lot like that because AI is I mean, you can't hardly have a conversation with anybody, especially talking about their strategy, without saying, well, we're using AI. And many they think they are, but they're really not. And that's another thing that came out in this article. I want to get your summation of it. What are the most important elements that we want to pull out of this article from your perspective?
The most important elements is that, number one, there is an overspending in AI data centers. Mm-hmm. It's over leveraged there, overspending.
And that's probably going on in the mortgage industry too. We're seeing a lot of people spending a lot of money in this. They're not spending billions of dollars in data centers per se, but they're investing a lot of time and effort into AI.
Yes.
Macro wise, good. Short term, what would you say?
Right. So the problem, what they're pointing out is you're not going to see the short-term returns that you think that's been promised to you. Right. The hype machine has promised you huge short-term returns, and don't expect to see that. They're talking about a 5-year. The bottom line, what they're talking about in using standard AI models that are out there and agentic AI, right? They're talking about a 5-year cycle where you're going to see returns. Now, obviously, these people haven't read our white paper and don't know yet of what we're doing with our proprietary transactional language model. But if you're using standard AI tools like Gemini or ChatGPT and you're building agentic AI on top of it, don't expect major returns on that investment for 5 years. Right. And as you and I know, in the mortgage industry, 5 years is multiple lifetimes.
Yeah. Many companies can rise or fall in that time frame. And then you throw interest rate volatility into the mix as well.
Yes. Right. But that doesn't mean that don't invest in AI. Don't invest in thinking and having an AI strategy. It's just that if you don't, in 5 years, you'll be nowhere.
Right.
Okay. But at the same time, you have to understand you better go in there with a mindset of long-term commitment and long-term investment. Don't go in there with the mindset of, I'm going to put $1 million in, I'm going to get, $1 million of return within 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, this article talks about shifting from scattered experiments to strategic bets. What do they mean by that? It looks like we're seeing a lot of scattered experiments across the mortgage industry. But how can people refocus to strategic bets?
Yeah, so I'll give it in parallel. I'll explain that by way of example.
Okay.
So the tech industry went with a scattered experiment approach, and they just said, "Hey, we're going to replace all of our engineers with AI." Okay, and so again, this is some of the smartest people in the tech industry. These are tech companies,
and they actually bought into that,
and they bought themselves into it. And what they found, there was another study, not an MIT study, there was another study that basically said, bottom line, was that the code that's being written by AI slowed down projects by 60%, and introduced new areas of security vulnerabilities and so forth. So the tech industry has now gone back into rehiring and saying, okay, maybe we shouldn't have done this. Right. So you hear a lot about, I can vibe code this. The new buzzword is vibe code, VIBE. If you haven't
Okay.
heard it, and you can look it up. So there's a lot of talk about, oh, I can vibe code this app in 3 hours or whatever, and that is true. You can use AI to code something really fast, but you can't. Whatever it creates, it's not sustainable. It doesn't last, right?
Yeah.
So is one thing about creating something that works. So what bottom line they're saying is that tech companies have realized you can use AI to create a model, a prototype of your product, but you can't put that in production. So it's good for a toy prototype, so you could get a feel for what you're going to be creating. But that's, again, it goes back to people believing the hype and not going back to first principles. Okay, so
Okay, so describe what first principles are. You've got these
Yeah.
down. You've guided your company by these first principles.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, first principles means going back to the underlying theory as to why something works and what something is really, right? You can get in your Tesla and drive it, and if that's all you want to do is use it, shrink wrap, and drive it from home to work, great, perfect, right? But if you want to use a Tesla to build your house, it's not going to do that. And if you don't understand the first principles that a car is meant to go from A to B,
Yeah. There you go.
right? And to say, oh, it's got an engine, it's got a battery pack, I could use it to it's got all this power, I could use it to build my house, it's not going to happen, right?
Right.
So same thing in AI. First principles means going back to the underlying what makes these engines work, what makes an LLM work. And I've talked about this before in our previous podcast, is LLMs work because of a paper that Google issued, right? Remember, it was Google, not OpenAI, that had the breakthrough, and they gave it to the world for free, and it's called "Attention is All You Need." That's the name of the paper. It's a very famous paper. Is a breakthrough.
When was that published?
Huh? 2015.
Say it again. 2015.
Yeah, 2015.
Okay.
Okay, and then before that, the other breakthrough was Google's Go. The Google DeepMind came up with a AI that can beat the world's best Go players, right? And they used what's called a Monte Carlo decision tree, right? Okay, and they proved how that could be used to power AI and make very complex decisions, right? And there's other many breakthroughs prior to that, but there's the most important breakthrough prior to that comes to my mind is, I think it was in the 70s, a mathematician came up with the neural net correction formula of how to do how to calculate error correction and back propagate in the neural net, right? That's like that formula, that math is fundamental. None of this works without that. So that guy is like the father of AI, right? I mean, if he doesn't come up with that math, there's nothing.
So one of the things they talk about in the shifting from scattered experiments to strategic bets is there's something called an organizational trap. And what they're saying in there is providing productivity tools such as ChatGPT is not an AI strategy that truly transforms the company. It's a useful tool, but it doesn't transform. And I think a lot of people say, well, we've got a great AI strategy. That leaped out at me in this article, because how many of us think we have an AI strategy because we're using ChatGPT daily, hourly? Yeah.
Well, there's and use it, and it's going to help and save you a lot of time.
Yes, it does.
But be aware that comes with a trap, right? Because the trap is that whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or whatever, these companies are heavily subsidized. They're subsidizing your usage. Okay, so that means if you pay them $1 to use, let's say, ChatGPT, right? And I forget the number, but something like it costs them $20 to provide the service. And the reason they don't charge you the $20 is because if they charge you the $20, no one would pay for that service. People would say it isn't worth this money. Okay, so that's the trap is, yes, these tools are incredibly useful. They do amazing things, but if you actually paid, forget full retail. If you paid manufacturer's cost, you would never use it because it's not it's not giving enough
prohibitive
economic
expensive.
value to be worth the price.
Yeah, yeah, really good. So we're profiting or benefiting from their big investment and honestly their big losses from those investment as
Right.
they continue to develop it out. Interesting.
Right. And so the trap is if you build your organization and you invest millions and hundreds of millions of dollars into one of those underlying platforms, right? And so you build on top of, say, ChatGPT or Gemini or something, right? And you built this, and you retooled your whole organization to that new system from one of those underlying platforms. Well, you're gonna get a rug pull eventually because they can't keep selling you $20 product for $1,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And sooner or later, you're gonna whatever you're paying is gonna go up 20-fold, and then
Yep.
you're gonna ask yourself, can I still stay in business or not, right? And that's the trap.
That's the trap they're referring to.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
should be the focus for 2026 for lenders and those realize they need some type of AI strategy? But what should be the proper focus in your opinion, Pavan?
I would say twofold. Number one, while these products are basically being given away, and they're cheap and they're free, or they're free and close to cheap, or so cheap that they're free, and that they use them for whatever you can. Okay, but if you're building a full lending platform on top of it, if you're building your own custom lending platform on top of it, beware that you're going to get burned eventually.
Good point.
They have to recover the money somehow.
Yeah.
The
So-
second thing is if you just, and it's funny, and I did this exercise the other day, I actually went into ChatGPT and I asked ChatGPT to read its own terms and conditions.
Oh, did you? Oh, interesting.
Right? And it's funny because the reason I did that is because there was I saw a commentator talking about ChatGPT's new terms and conditions, and the new terms and conditions in ChatGPT basically say that even if you're a paying customer, right, even if you have a license from them, the business model that you build on top of ChatGPT, they have the right to duplicate it, so they can take your business model.
Wow.
When you're selling something that's cost $20 for $1, right, you're going to have to find a way to bridge the gap and make the money somehow, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
ChatGPT has to satisfy its investors and shareholders, right? So we're going to say, okay, you know what? We may not have the cash, but we get asset. Let's bridge that difference with an asset. And the asset is we got everyone's business models, right? And so now the promise is, and that's why if you look, 6 months ago, Sam Altman said, okay, ChatGPT, we're now changing our strategy and we're going into vertical integration, right? So what that means is they collected enough data from everyone and got everyone's business models, and they're going to now try to take over business after business directly.
Really interesting. What do you think their success of doing so in the mortgage space is? A lot of big companies have tried to come in and do something here, and they've failed. All of them failed, or retreated because they realized that they didn't understand the complexity. Not that it's more complex than running a nuclear plant or anything of that nature, but it's still one of those things where people underestimate the complexity in the mortgage process.
Actually, a nuclear plant is surprisingly simple.
Really?
Compared to they look complicated because it's funny when if you ever been in one, you think they're all high tech and everything, but when you go in one, it's like 1960s technology. Because it's a you got these bulbs and buttons and stuff everywhere.
Right.
There's like no computerization of them, and it's because there's so much at stake in a nuclear plant that it takes such a long cycle for them to get tested. For every instrument that goes in there has to go through this long, huge testing cycle.
Rigorous testing, yes.
Right, that no one ever bothers changing it. So now it's like 50 years old, 60 years old. It's sort of like loan servicing systems, right?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. A really good analogy. Yeah.
Right. So,
yep.
yeah. So the mortgage industry is actually way more complicated in many respects than a nuclear plant because it's changing all the time. New products, new regulations are coming out, and the dynamism is really driven by consumers. And consumers want a new feeling. They want a better experience. They want accuracy. They want immediate answers. Expectations are high because Gen Z and Gen X and millennials they're like, hey, everything else in my life, I hit a button and I get it, right? I go to Amazon and I buy what I need, and
Delivered the
every
next
other
day, yes, no cost.
right, other than banking, every other experience I have, I get the absolute truth from the manufacturer, right? And the manufacturer says XYZ, XYZ happens, right? But in banking in general, that doesn't happen because it's always conditioned with, well, we'll see, if this, if this, if that, if this.
Yeah, if then statements.
Right, and that's ultimately is what we've done with AI is in our proprietary implementation. Remember, I had breakfast with him. He was kind of equivalent of the chief investment officer of SoftBank. His summary of the AI space today is that it's over levered. Okay, and the old money that came in early, right? They're running to the exit. They're looking for new money to dump it on at lower returns, right? So they want to get 10x their investment out and dump it on new money that maybe will at a nominal return. So that was his sort of bottom line, and he's seeing the same thing. He sees a lot. He's got a very broad view of this industry, and he hasn't seen anybody that's got an AI factory, as this talks about, that is delivering returns, economic value greater than the cost it takes to run it.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
One of the questions I want to, as we wrap this up, I want to talk about something we discussed in our last video that's gotten a lot of questions that came in. We talked about the UX, that we're getting away from digital keep typing data into a computer and it's going to speaking to the computer. A lot of people welcome that because, especially loan officers, they're relational people. They want to speak at the computer, but we got some pushback on that as the reality or how long that's going to take to happen. If you could kind of answer the question, is that a ways out, or are we really getting close to that?
Yeah. So, and that's the whole premise of Angel AI. And we were talking about this and building this in 2017, 2018. I would explain to people like, hey, everything's changing in UI. It's not, your phone isn't going to be what you think it is anymore. All right. There's a whole new way of doing user interfaces. And since then, the tech industry's caught up to this, and the official term for it is zero UI. And we just published a white paper on it. If you just go to angelai.com/whitepaper, you can see it. And the people at National Mortgage Professional just did a great job.
They did a great job of summing it up. Yeah.
Right. And I work with them, and I published an op-ed over there that puts it in. The white paper is very technical. It's written by our researchers. Yeah. There's a lot of science in there. But what I published in my op-ed in National Mortgage Professional goes into it puts in the perspective of a mortgage banker, right? And as a loan officer, what does it mean to you, right? So zero UI basically means no more typing, no more screens, right? That the apps should be smart enough to pick up from the environment, from what you're saying, what you're feeling, it doesn't know what you're feeling necessarily, but your expressions, your movements, right? That's zero UI. That it passively picks up from what you're doing and then responds dynamically, with the appropriate information and the appropriate graphics. Okay, so that's zero UI, and those who have been using Angel AI for a while, and those who use it on a regular basis can speak to this, how their lives as loan officers has changed completely because they no longer take loan applications. There's no more loan applications to take because you just have a conversation. You tell the AI, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
And you give it the documents. Why should you go through and fill in a loan application field by field? Give it the documentation, give it information, give it your experience with this customer, give it the customer's experience, and let it fill in the loan application for you.
That is such an interesting concept, and it's here. That's the part that I want everyone to hear. It's not in the future; it is here.
Yeah, and this is why we have so many patents, because we were ahead of the game. We saw this this vision years ago that this is the way the world has to be. And we started working on it and started designing stuff and filing patents. And so we got this stuff, 110 plus patents now. And that portfolio of patents, that just the intellectual property, because it creates such a massive moat around what we're doing. And basically means the way in which we are providing financial services is not replicable, right? And it is at a tenth of the cost of the industry, less than a tenth of the cost of the industry. Right. And it's better service because it delivers what millennials, Gen X, Gen Zs want, which is they want to have a quick conversation. They don't want to get on the phone and talk to a salesperson. They want to have a quick conversation and get an answer that they can rely on.
Why has there been so much resistance to this happening, do you think? I mean, are we just afraid of change? And we're definitely laggards as an industry.
Well, I can tell you from my experience with our customers, I think there's, from a distance at a high level, if you're just watching this podcast and you're hearing about this for the first time, you might be thinking, oh my God, this is too scary. This is what are these people talking about? How can you change everything like this in an industry? But when I talk to my customers who are in it and who use it, right? Like yes. When I talk to my customer, the loan officer is my customer. So I talk to loan officers, whether they work for me directly or work through one of my brokers. And they're like, this changed my whole life. This is like they all say the same thing. I was skeptical, I was scared, and then I tried it. And why didn't I try this sooner? Yeah. Why didn't I do this sooner? Because I'm doing more business than ever before.
Yeah. So good example of that. There's a press releases out by Troy Kennedy of Loanworks, and he has made your Angel AI front and center. I was talking to another executive they have a huge investment. I mean, huge investment in the old legacy system out there, Encompass, and they're going, we would love to see it. We get it. We're hearing more and more about it. We just don't know how to. So those that have the investments in old legacy systems that need to make the shift, how would you advise them?
You gotta write it off. That investment it's like, let's say in the age of bicycles, you just bought the best bicycle, and then the automobile comes around. I mean, it's a write-off. You're gonna have to go buy the automobile,
even though it was brand new, the best bicycle at the time. It's almost immediately a write-off. Yeah,
it's a write-off, and you got to make a complete structural change. Because when you're thinking about this a zero UI world, that means your existing staff who've gotten so used to a rhythm of following somebody else's predetermined workflow. Now you could tell them, hey, you're free of that rhythm. That's why one of the things we say is break free. Yep. You're free of that structure. And now you could just tell the AI whatever you want and it's going to do for you. It's a very hard thing for someone to grasp. Like, wait, I'm used to just doing it this way. Now you mean I just say what I want and I'm going to get it? Right?
It's really, we don't have a problem doing this with Alexa in our homes. We say, Alexa, do this, put this to the grocery list, turn up the volume, play me this playlist. We don't have any problem thinking about it there. And it is, so that I'm bringing that out as an obvious example. It is here. We talk to our cell phones now, ask them to do whatever they want, and increasingly more things are done. So it is getting to be there.
Yeah, but Alexa is a great example of zero UI. That is, you tell her to do something and she does it. Siri is an example of zero UI. Yeah. But I think that's the problem. I think Alexa and Siri is also the reason why people are so skeptical about this being in the mortgage space, because they've seen those kinds of apps for very simple things, like Alexa play music or whatever. But they've also seen its limitations, like it can't really do much beyond that. Okay? Right?
And that's what's leading the skepticism.
Right. So whereas Angel AI does like real money, right? Your reputation's on the line when you originate a loan.
Right.
But what you realize is that this magnifies your reputation, this improves your reputation, because now you can originate the loan with the warranty, because I have $120 billion in assets behind that warranty. Right. right? So when an Angel AI gives you an answer, it's warranted, and you turn it around and pass it over to the customer and say,
Yes.
"Hey, the Angel AI said you're approved," right?
You're
and
approved.
it's like you're done.
Yeah.
Right? You say it's not going to change, and if something goes wrong, right? If Angel AI had that wrong, it doesn't matter because the warranty kicks in, and we're gonna fund it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, what you have built is got to get a serious look at, be studied by the industry. More and more people are using it. I'm talking to executives almost every day saying, where are you at with your AI strategy? They all say, we're using ChatGPT. I said, that's not a strategy. That is
It's a step.
It's a step, a good step,
Yeah.
a very good step. Learn how to use it, but
Right.
things will quantum leap over that in
Right.
2026.
Yeah, but real strategy starts from first principles and go back to reading. It's hard, it's tough, right? It's what Elon Musk said is when he went to build SpaceX, right?
Yeah.
He's a computer engineer and he went to build SpaceX. What did he do? 6 months he opened the books and read everything about rocket science himself.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And then he built SpaceX.
Elon is one of those unusual stories, but it's doable by all of us. Pavan, thanks so much for coming back on the podcast. We can go on and on. We'll look forward to having you back here again next week for another AI update. Really interesting article, folks. YouTube video that summarizes it. It's really important that you stay on top of this. Pavan, thanks so much for coming in today. Appreciate you being here, friend.
Cheers.